Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Get Ethereal. It's your gal Lauren here for the week of May 25th, and it's a potent one. You're gonna hear it all over social, the Mars Square Pluto. So let's get down to the granular details of what to watch out for, how to best engage or honestly not engage with this energy, and how to utilize it for its intensity in a good way. Okay. But it is the main story this week. It kicks off late Monday morning. So we are already feeling it the last couple days and the rest of the week. Okay. And when it comes to Mars and Pluto, reminder Mars and Uranus also is major, and that kicked off the war in Iran. Mars square Pluto, similar. Pluto and Uranus are both intense. Uranus is more sudden, fast. Things accelerate and they're unpredictable and it comes seemingly out of nowhere. When it comes to Pluto, it's more deliberate, intense, strategic. Okay. So it's maybe been brewing and then these things happen, but you see how they're both kind of intense. Reminder, a square brings out the intensity or tough side of the planets involved. It squares are also my favorite because with that tension, you can actually create I'm so sick of this, I'm actually changing, or this got brought up in an intense way so that we could shift it. Okay, so I love a square, but I am just letting y'all know it will be the story of the week. You're gonna see it everywhere if you follow a bunch of astrologers. And expect the news to be very intense. But in our everyday normal human lives, way less intense, right? So we'll get into that with the charts. And the lesson today, I was just like, what can I do? I'm gonna do a quick and dirty lesson of palmistry. My grandmother, that's her crystal ball, she did astrology, but she mainly was a palm reader, okay, and handwriting analysis gal. So I was just I was looking through my bookshelf. I was like, oh, let me give the basics of palmistry. I think it's a thing that isn't done these days. Is there any modern people doing it? I'm sure, but I think it's a lost art, and I think it's really cool and pretty witchy and misunderstood. So let's dive into it. Just the basics, and then maybe it'll create a rabbit hole for you. Okay, let's look at the charts for this week. Chart. Um, all right. Oh, let me do over the shoulder. I forgot. Okay. All right. Here we have Monday. Okay. The moon has just moved into Libra. That's kind of nice because Libra is the sign of balance and harmony and seeing both sides of things, which will be necessary with the Mars square Pluto. So, this is our emotional landscape wherever the moon is moving. So everybody's emotions will be seeking balance, harmony. How can I keep the peace? Or at its toughest, Libra energy can be indecisive. I'm seeing both sides and I'm kind of paralyzed in what to choose. But it's a peaceful energy. But let's deep dive this Mars square Pluto. You can see this red line as I hover over it. So Mars, reminder, I'm just gonna make sure this doesn't time out. Mars is the planet of war, but it's that fighting masculine nature. We all have masculine and feminine. It is the warrior. It is fast acting, motivation, going for it type of planet. And so just think of action reaction is Mars. Okay, that's very masculine energy, whereas feminine is receptive, intuitive. Masculine energy is just we're not really thinking or reflecting, we're going, which is necessary. But when it's in a square, Mars, just think of the tough side of Mars is impulsive, reactive, ego, hot-headed, explosive, fire, injury, attack at its worst. Okay. Pluto is that planet of that rules Scorpio, everything hidden below the surface. It is, in its beautiful nature, it represents willpower, the deep drive in us all. I think of like the human behaviors and motivations undercurrent of everything. And it's also a very much a planet that brings like secrecy up. It's a research, investigate, and solve type of energy. It can be very pragmatic and logical. That's why I'm like, some Scorpio energy and Plutonian people are like strategists, detective, like problem solvers. Okay, very logical. But then there's this Pluto Scorpio side that's very intuitive, empathetic, deep. Okay, because it's in, like feeling out the motivations. Okay, so the best kind of leaders probably have both. It's like the ability to step into power, but also in a very like reading the energy way. So when these two square off, it's bringing the tough side of Pluto, which is like, I think of revenge. I think of plotting, hitting people where it hurts. Just think of the Scorpio stinger. Okay. So I would say pay attention to like in the news. There can be, I mean, this is coming from Aquarius, which is the people, and Taurus, which is, I think of money, earth, nature, funny enough, and security are all themes of this. So this could be, you know, in general, like I said, it correlates to more of that power struggle, explosive reactions, accidents, be careful of violence, obviously in the news, not in our personal lives. And then mainly just things escalating a little more quickly and intensely. But because Pluto's in Aquarius, Mars is in Taurus, it's like, it's not just personal irritation. It feels like more collective energy involved. That's why I think the news stories will be interesting, because Pluto in Aquarius, y'all know it'll be here for like the longest time. Pluto's the slowest moving planet. Aquarius rules the collective, the people, the systems, that equality, future oriented, like, you know, what's good for everybody, what feels equal. So this creates over the next 20 years social movements, technology, innovations, protests, fighting for freedom. And just know when Pluto moves into a sign, it first brings up the tough sides, like limitations of freedoms, etc. So we could have news about the limitations of freedoms or more restrictions, political restrictions amongst the people in the collective Aquarius, because Pluto is like that power hammer falling down. And then when you throw in the Taurus themes of Mars, I think of resources, money, land, maybe just stubbornness. So globally, I think it absolutely can correlate to financial tension. I mean, if it has to do with wars, it's like probably money related. Aren't they all though? There could be government pressure, like I said, around more freedom stuff. I don't know if this kind of screams like ICE type of stuff, which hasn't been in the news a lot lately. I don't follow the news much, but restrictions around being here. And this is global, so it could be in other countries as well. Market volatility, can't not mention that with Taurus. Money, okay. Maybe it's like government restrictions on the market. I don't know. I don't know those worlds, but I'm just like piecing together the themes. There could be infrastructure issues. It makes me think of what's going on here in LA. I've seen a couple posts. It's not near me in Santa Monica, so it's not like all over my stuff, but there is like a toxic power plant that started to leak and everybody's being evacuated around it. And that to me screams this energy a lot. Okay, so it's like Taurus is like infrastructures, like things that are solid, secure, being blasted open is kind of the vibe. Toxicity works with this energy as well. And then globally, just think of like conflicts escalating or power plays. I think I saw over this weekend, I'm recording this on Sunday, Trump was like, we're working on a truce with Iran about opening the Strait of Hormuz. But I think with this energy, I'm like, I think one of them or maybe both of them are strategizing like behind the scenes, like being savage, being like something is not peaceful. This isn't peaceful energy, I'm not gonna lie. This is coming to a head. Maybe, like I said, the square brings things to a head so it finally changes. So absolutely it could be like there's just like we finally just fight to the match and we're like swords down. This is the peak moment. That's my positive spin on it. But this doesn't feel very peaceful. I can't not lie to you guys. But it could be, yeah, enough is enough vibe, and we all just put our swords down. That's my hope. Okay. But a lot of news in general, I think with Pluto in square, just think of like truths coming to light that make people angry. And explosives, just think of like or like shakeups. It could be like earthquakes. I don't know. So personal lives. For years, I don't know if you followed me, like who's listening, but whenever there's Pluto square Mars or opposition Mars or conjunction, I'm always like I always joke, like hide in your home. And that's extreme. I'm kidding, but it's just a palpable tensity in the air. So, like, say you work in an office, just think bosses being just really like it's like power struggles. So it doesn't have to be your boss, but that's just like an example of like, God, they're really difficult today. What is going on? I'm so irritable myself. I'm reactive. I'm taking things personally. That is in the air. So like all week, if you could remind yourself, okay, everybody's feeling more intense, reactive, sensitive, defensive, feeling like they've got to like snap to be heard, and it doesn't have to do with anything maybe in the moment that's going on. So I'm always like, do not engage, do not engage, like please don't bother. Also for like it makes me think of like road rage and um maybe this could be events like, oh god forbid, another like mass shooting in a crowded event. I think of Aquarius. It's like groups, communities coming together, and Mars is like that type of thing. So it's just like if you're on the road, just be extra cautious. Don't be on your phone. Don't be looking down. If somebody cuts you off, don't escalate. Just be like, they're probably, like, who knows what they're going through. Or maybe they just didn't see you. Try your best. Like, this is the week to practice like presence, wusa, spiritual mindfulness. This is where we're really putting into action. Like, you can be the most spiritual person, but how do you act when the energy is tense? That's when it's really getting put to use. Okay. So, also keep in mind for yourself, like impulsiveness, or like this urge to, I think of like, oh, fuck it all, like major big swings. I'm like, well, let's let it pass. So just all of that. Try not to rush into anything, literally, figuratively, okay? Because Mars and Pluto together kind of goes from 0 to 100 is kind of the energy. But okay, how do we manifest the best side of this energy? Okay, I really love, like if you just think of this as like really hitting a bullseye, it's like incredible focus is kind of the vibe, like strategy, like I said. You could, like if you've been struggling with like, okay, I feel some motivation turning on, but like I'm not seeing it fully clearly, this could be the week where you're just like honing in on problem solving the thing that's kept you in the way or finding the strategy. But it's extremely determined type of vibes. So you could be breaking through something difficult. This could be like a breakthrough in therapy, even. It doesn't have to be in career or business or anything like that, but it can be. So it's kind of like transforming your life, Pluto, through disciplined action, Mars and Taurus. Because Mars, when it's in Taurus, this is the one benefit of this square, is like Mars in Taurus is a little more caution. Out of Taurus, it's more stubborn. So I don't think it's as like intense if this was happening in like Aries, right? So amazing energy for, just think of disciplined, slow and steady. Don't be impulsive with like workouts, utilizing this energy towards like hitting a PR, personal record, and you're lifting if you're into that. deep excavation of your psyche in therapy, cutting cords with unhealthy patterns. This could be like, I think of Pluto as cutthroat. It's like, fuck, I gave you this chance, and then bye. Okay. So what do you need to cut out of your life? It could be your own behaviors, it could be your own thoughts, beliefs, or it could be that toxic relationship. Okay. Uh, so yeah, bold moves, channeling any anger that pops up, which I'll just always remind everybody, anger is a good thing to feel. A lot of us repress that, especially women. So let that anger pop up and then turn it into something productive. Let it fuel you to be like, well, I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to prove people wrong or whatever. Instead of reacting to others, I'm going to like react to the pen and paper or whatever it may be. Okay. So it's time to direct the fire instead of becoming the fire. Okay. So we're going to feel this all freaking week. Okay. So that is the major story. I spent a little more time on it. The other things going on at the same time, Mars is sextile, ease and flow to the North Node. That was happening exactly on Sunday, but we're still feeling it. It's within 1 degree. So I'm like, supportive energy towards like what you need to be doing in the future, actions aligning with like future directions. So paired with the square to Pluto in our personal lives, it could be like I described, it's like we're finally breaking free from something. And even if it comes with tense, irritable energy, frustration, it's like it is redirecting you in a positive way. But at the same time, we have Sun squaring the North Node. Okay, Sun's at 4 degrees. It's still with Uranus. Okay, from last week, which is great. Look at these blue lines, by the way. Uranus is it's talking friendly to everything. So it's trying to shock us into positive change. The insights that came of the past few days with the Sun Uranus should be intriguing to you. It doesn't mean you had to fully take action. Maybe that's this week, but it's just kind of like aha moments. Okay. But the Sun squaring the North Node can feel like really being shown a mirror of like, am I staying comfortable where I'm at? Or am I pushing through? Am I actually moving forward? Where is life trying to take me? Am I being stubborn, set in my ways? Gemini is saying like permission to change. I always say when people have heavy Gemini, when I do readings, I'm like, or they're a manifesting generator, which usually go hand in hand. I'm always like, hey, your greatest gift is pivoting. Change your mind. Do many things very well. Okay. So we're with the Sun in Gemini meeting up with Uranus, and then Mercury's in Gemini. I'm like, we are able to look at all things, and we are able to take in the beautiful thing of mutable signs, and particularly Gemini, which gets a bad rep. I'm like, Geminis are great at being like, okay, tell me your side of it. I'm going to gather information and maybe I will change my mind. Okay. So that's beautiful. That could be the thing that this Sun square North Node is saying, like, okay, maybe I need to be a little more flexible and think about changing this thing. Okay. All right. But Monday, the big story, Mars square Pluto, as we talked ad nauseum about. Okay. Let's see Tuesday. What's good about it is for Tuesday is Mars was squaring Pluto, but Tuesday the Sun is trine to Pluto, 5 and 5. Okay. So maybe this takes the heat off a little bit. I think it's much better energy. We are still very much in the Mars square Pluto. They're both at 5 degrees. Okay. So, multiple things can be true at once, but I think the Sun trine Pluto in our personal lives is like regaining emotional control a little bit, feeling more strategic and aha. Think like Monday, if you're feeling more reactive. Tuesday, it's like, let's handle this with some more responsibility is the wrong word, just like integrity maybe. Okay, so again, finding solutions, financial decisions, maybe research, powerful conversations, deep focus, cutting through maybe denial. So this could reveal, because like Pluto's the revealer of what's hidden, it could reveal the why for you in whatever area of life you've been deep diving. Okay. All right, Wednesday, oops. we go. Wednesday, we just have like the moon later in the day entering Scorpio. And so, whenever the moon's in Scorpio, people are a little bit more emotional, and the nasty side of Scorpio can come up, which is the same as nasty side of Pluto. So, jealousy, revenge, manipulation, insecurity, obsessiveness. But at its best, it's like empowering, aha moments, very intuitive, very empathetic. Okay. So let the next couple days reveal, what are your fears? I always say, is this a fear story or is this reality? So fears can come up with Scorpio energy, and power dynamics and jealousy. So just pay attention. I'm always like, let it come up, see it, and then challenge it is kind of the vibe. Thursday, and then it's just the same energy. Thursday into Friday is Venus square Saturn. It's Thursday night is when it's exact, but it's so late that I'm like, it's Thursday and Friday. Venus square Saturn, 11/11. Make a wish. I kind of like, this can be literal, but it also tends to feel emotional for people, because Venus is like worthiness and value and love and harmony and beauty and art and aesthetic and money. Saturn in a square can feel like harsh, not good enough, like you should be doing better, you should be doing more. And so this can bring in a lot of self-doubt at its toughest, and insecurity, or feeling not pretty, or feeling like I don't want to, stuff like that. And it highlights this so that we can have healthier standards, healthier self-worth. So whether this is showing up more in relationships, this could be, feeling lonely, feeling more disappointed in people, or the attempt of dating, or from your partner. This could feel like distance in a good way. It could feel like boundaries that creates distance. But widely it feels like just like unsupported. Okay. So knowing that that could be just in the air and everybody's feeling it, high vibe it. Make people feel valuable this week, I think, is a beautiful thing we can do. And it's, instead of getting caught in the negative of like, everything's doomed, I'm alone, blah, blah, blah. Because like Aries is self, but Cancer is like emotional support. And so we're craving more of that. So it's good to check in with like, fantasy from reality in relationships, getting very clear headed around these things. It can also be money, like if that's something that you've been struggling with, worthiness, manifestation around these things, abundance. But I think, it highlights the insecurity so that we can do something about it. That's what I love about squares. I'll always say it. Like, I always tell people, like, I think it's because I have a shit ton of squares in my chart, but so I've had to learn to like love them and support people through them. But I've noticed I've done thousands of readings, you guys. When I see somebody that's got a tough chart, I'm like, they're the coolest people I talk to. And like everything you read about astrology, you expect them to be like, in the gutter somewhere. But like, it's the people with the ease, beautiful charts that I notice are really to the point where they can't get themselves out of any setbacks because they're used to things flowing. So just a heads up that squares are often talked about of like doom and gloom, but I think they reveal a lot in a beautiful way. Okay. All right. Thursday. Let's get into Friday. I don't think there's anything really going on. Yeah. I'll just, something great to look forward to, guys, is Venus and Jupiter meeting up together. It's still going to be a bit, but they're both in Cancer. So I'm like, so cute. I kind of love we got water, we've got air, we've got earth, we got fire. We got all the elements working together. So I like that. I just wanted to look at this in general with you guys. So this is cute. Okay. Saturday into Sunday, we're feeling the full moon. Okay. It's exact early Sunday morning, like 2 a.m. So I'm doing the moon event on Thursday. So if you want to come and get much more deep dive into this full moon, because the new and full moons are like what set the stage of change and new beginnings in our lives. They're major twice a month check-ins. I think they're really important. So come to the moon event on Thursday if you want insights into how that's impacting you and how to best utilize it. I do an in-depth tarot reading for everybody as well, and we write our moon lists together. But this full moon is in Sagittarius, okay? It'll be at 9 degrees. The sun is always in the opposite sign, so that's in Gemini. So before I get into that, you're going to hear a lot of people talk about how this was a blue moon. Doesn't mean much astrologically. It just means it's the second full moon, in this case, second full moon in a calendar month. That's because we started the month on the 1st with a full moon in Scorpio. So on the 31st, we have a full moon in Sagittarius. So you can just think of May being, if it starts and ends the same, there's a message of like a lot of change happened in May. And so, or is happening in May. We're still in it. So like the bookends of this month have been about illuminating what needs to shift, change, leave our lives, or launch and celebrate. All of those things are full moon. But I always say a full moon's a flashlight moment, okay? So in Sagittarius, I won't go too in depth, just come to the moon event, but Sag is like the bigger picture, hope, expansion, like getting out of our immediate surroundings, which is Gemini. Gemini is like neighborhood. Just think of like my local coffee shop, my neighbors, my like on foot or drivable arena. Sag is like that bigger, like out of a comfort zone, go to the other country and learn about the culture, study the thing that's like outside of how you grew up, like the philosophy, the religion. That's what Scorpio or Sagittarius rules. So a full moon in Sag is saying like, okay, what do I need to step into? I'm seeing the bigger picture of my life. And you're blending the small details, Gemini, with the big picture. Okay. So it's like truth, freedom, belief systems, travel. It can also be media, big perspectives, writing. And I always say like a hopefulness, okay, of like, ooh, there can be exciting, I got to take a risk. I think of the fire signs as like the risk takers, the leaders. So with Sag, it's probably the most adventurous of all the fire signs. Whereas Aries is probably the most bold, Leo's the most fun, and Sag is the most risk-taking, okay? So it's saying like, leap and the net will appear, fortune favors the bold. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer. It's really lovely, okay? This full moon will be trine Neptune, okay? It will also be opposite Uranus loosely. It'll be sextile Pluto. That's all 3 of the outer planets, okay? It also will be talking to Saturn and Neptune kind of too, in sextile trine. Wow. So all of them. I think this is a big story. When all the outer planets are involved, I think it's like there's bigger background stuff and shifts trying to come through in our lives, which makes sense with that Sagittarius lens of like, okay, am I going to stick in my comfort zone or am I going to expand my life? Okay. Don't just keep racking your brain of like, all the tabs are open, but I'm not choosing any. That's Gemini at its toughest, squirrely brain. And then Sag just saying like, okay, I've got 10 tabs open. None of them are the thing that's actually the thing. You're looking above it. Okay. So this full moon feels pretty big as far as like activation in your life. It can be fast moving. It can be emotional peak for sure. Also, for the world on like major world events, leadership announcements. I think of big market shifts could happen, travel stories. I hope it's not travel limitations. There could be airline news or I don't know if there's something going on with the Iran war and the fuel and from the Strait of Hormuz, and then travel is like limited. Things are getting nutty as we move into July. Okay. So I'm like, this could be a trigger moment that we see play out over the next month or two. Because the energy is pretty beautiful, minus the square from Mars and Pluto, for the most of June. But this could definitely be some travel or culture related news, rapid changing narratives in the news. Okay. So this week is major, but more for the news cycle is what I would say. For our personal lives, are you going to step into your power? Are you going to change something? Are you going to think bigger for your life? Are you going to be so irritated and frustrated that you actually change something? That's the vibe. Okay. Okay. Let's get into this simple little palmistry lesson. So cute. Sorry, I'm opening a picture I just screenshotted. Okay. Okay, here's the quick and dirty of a palm. The three major lines, we have the heart line, the headline, and the lifeline, okay? And so, there's different opinions on this, so like feel free to research, but we want to look at your hand. I always say your dominant hand, okay? So for me, it's that right hand. This one's showing a left hand. But that first one is this heart line, okay? If your heart line curves more, like towards your fingers, there's this thing of like, okay, you're more maybe romantic, okay? If it's more straight, it could be more practical in love. Okay, mine splits into a fork at the end. That's a sign if you have that, if you have like, you can't see my hand fully, but here's my heart line. It goes like this, and then another line's coming from it here. That's kind of like the romantic, empathetic, wounded healer vibe, which tracks like the mentor, teacher, guide vibe. So it's like emotional depth energy. So if you have that, welcome to the club. But yeah, curved up, if you have a lot of, they call it chain links in it, I've been told over my life that that's flirt lines, and if there's breaks in the chains, there could be disappointments in love, but like don't get caught up on that because there's timing involved of where. The other thing I love looking at for my friends is between these two placements, okay, under the pinky finger and the heart line, between this, what do your lines look like here? Okay, they'll go across like this. They'll either be short or longer. They can be faint or really deep, okay? Those are the marriage lines. So you can have, like I have one really deep, long one that's up closer towards your pinky. That's later in life. So this tracks, I'm not married. But I also have a pretty significant one underneath it, like years, like closer to the heart line. That's when you're younger. That is, I almost got engaged twice when I was younger. Okay. So significant relationships for long periods of time. I had a 5-year relationship and I had a 2-year relationship. So you can certainly have lines for those, but look at those. They're fun. I always look at that. So if you have a line closer to the pinky, that's like a little later. So think of like 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. Okay. And then if you have like say you're somebody divorced and remarried, see if you got 2 lines. Okay. That's just a fun little additive. Okay. The line of the head, I've always heard if it's straight across, very logical. If it slopes down, more creative headline, If it's like in between, you're a blend of both. And then if it splits off in a fork, similar to how I described my heart line does that, that's kind of like a little wink at writer's line. Okay. And lastly, we've got the line of life, lifeline. Okay. So don't over like worry about this of like, oh, mine's like short or not defined. Am I gonna die? No. None of this should like stress you out, give you anxiety, or bring in fear stories. It's just for fun, okay? Um, but there's like things that you can look on into the lifeline as well. So those are the like three major lines. And then as you can see, there's planets that are involved, okay? So if you have, for example, I've read like if your Saturn finger is taller or you have like I have a asterisk in my Saturn hand finger. There's things that represents like hard work, business oriented. Jupiter is that luck expansion. Sun. I have a lot of energy in the sun line, which speaks of creativity. Okay. And then Mercury is that logical communication. Venus, love, harmony, Mount of Venus. It's really, you know, if it's cushier versus lined up is something. And then here's the moon. So I kind of love that all roads can kind of come back to astrology. The same with tarot, like every tarot card has astrological significance as well. But study some people's hands. And it's funny, like if you go on a date and you notice the guy doesn't have a marriage line, I'm like, interesting. Silly stuff like that. Okay. So check it out. I wonder, I haven't done this, so don't quote me on it. I wonder if you could take a photo of your hand and ask like AI about it. I'm sure it would get it wrong, but like if it's just for fun, why not? Or maybe this is your sign to like see if there's any local palm readers. I had years ago, it was before I started my astrology business. I had a really good palm reader in like bumfuck Indiana. I couldn't even tell you where it was. It was in a strip mall. There was a lot of cats. But she kind of nailed it. She was just like, you're gonna be doing a spiritual business. You have the mystic triangle thing, and she said something about writing and a significant loss. I was like, I didn't know. My mom was gonna die. So she was really good. Okay, so maybe there's some good palm readers out there. Okay, other things that I just have to share that I loved. I watched Off Campus. It's the next thing that I'm seeing all over socials. I think the beginning of the first episode, I was like, oh, this feels kind of like bad acting. And then it was like fantastic. By the time you get to the end of the first episode, I was like, okay, I'm interested. I love getting hooked on a show. I like really needed that because I was out of shows. I still can't stop thinking about Michael Jackson movie, so I want to see that again. Of course, I've looked at his chart before and it's made me look at his chart again. He's got a lot of Virgo energy, so like the perfectionist tendencies track, right? Um, and father stuff, because it's like I think his Saturn is exactly on his MC, which is so like public life of like long-term legacy. Saturn is longevity, but it's also the father energy, like hard work, okay? And also just like stress. He had a lot of judgment, right? Whether what side of it you believe in or not, like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just like, okay, interesting. And then for the off campus, like if people start obsessing over that, maybe I can pull pop culture wise some of those actors' charts. They're kind of hard to find. Typically, I didn't even look, but time of birth when they're breakout stars, which by the way, I am loving that all the best shows this year are with actors and actresses that we aren't as familiar with. Granted, they've had long careers of um, still being successful, probably, and or like not booking anything. Who knows? Like the guy from the JFK Jr., like he was about to give up. Um, but it's like they weren't known as mainstream because I feel like so many movies and shows just recast the same big names, and it's like all the ones that have been big hits this year are nobodies. Same with Michael Jackson. It was his nephew, okay, who was fantastic, Jafar. So if you haven't seen Michael Jackson, like it is his nephew and he's so talented, it's insane. So they didn't just go with an actor. that was known. Uh, Anything else in the personal life to share with you guys? No, I think, it's happy Memorial Day. Um, it's a long weekend. I tend to work on those types of days. I'm going about to go to the pool with my girlfriends and have a luxurious day. I also start my music lessons this week, so I'm so excited. And yeah, a lot came up last week in a good way. So it was lovely. I hope you had a lovely week last week. It was more harmonious energy. This week it's like more intense, but hopefully it's less like you're having to be on the brunt of things or reactive, and it's more of like, I'm taking action. Okay. So stay calm, Wusa. I'll catch y'all next week. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in.